It's 11,043 p.m. The blue light of a phone screen washes over a face, scrolling through lives that feel closer than the person sitting just 3 feet away on the couch. We've all been there. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's someone you love. There's a silence that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels heavy. A gap that wasn't there yesterday? Or maybe it's been widening for years, and we just stopped noticing the stretch. It's that moment when you want to reach out, but the habit of scrolling feels safer, or the words catch in your throat because you're not sure they'll land right. We carry these quiet isolations, men and women alike, often mistaking distance for independence and silence for peace. Here at the Velvet Verdict, we examine the shared experience through a lens that reflects the very bridge we're trying to build, a collaboration between human heart and artificial intelligence. We are a hybrid team. This transparency matters. It means we combine the pattern recognition of AI with the nuanced empathy of human writers to look at social science without losing our humanity. We can spot the trends that pull us apart while holding space for the stories that bring us back together. We're here to help you see the patterns, not just the pain. Our hybrid nature allows us to step back from the echo chambers that amplify division, offering a steady ground where we can examine the data without the heat of the moment. We aren't here to point fingers or declare a winner in a war that leaves everyone exhausted. The reality is a shared ache. Men and women are both hurting, both reaching out in ways that sometimes miss the mark, and both longing for connection in a world that often rewards isolation. We want to approach this with curiosity rather than alarm. Why do the bridges feel shaky? How can we rebuild them without keeping score? This isn't about blame. It's about finding the hurt and offering a hand. We'll look at the evidence honestly, distinguishing what the numbers tell us from the compassionate perspective we can offer. Healing is a direction, not a prescription, and if the weight feels too heavy, please seek professional support. For now, let's breathe and look at where we are, with kindness and clear eyes. How did we drift into this quiet epidemic of isolation, and what does it take to heal the divide between men and women without blame? We stand at a crossroads where the old scripts no longer fit, yet new ones haven't fully formed. Men and women are often caught in a loop of misunderstanding, not because of malice, but because the pathways to connection have grown over with fear and fatigue. The wound lies in the erosion of safe spaces where vulnerability can land without being weaponized. We must look at the drift honestly, seeing a gradual turning inward as the world outside became louder and more demanding. Both men and women have retreated, each carrying their own version of the hurt, often mistaking silence for strength or distance for protection. The challenge now is to recognize that this isolation is shared, even if it feels solitary. Healing doesn't require us to erase our differences or assign fault. It asks us to acknowledge the common ache beneath the surface. Rebuilding the bridge starts with a shift in posture. It means listening not to rebut, but to understand the fear behind the wall. It means offering the same grace we hope to receive, recognizing that the person on the other side is also navigating a landscape that often leaves them feeling unseen. We can move forward by choosing curiosity over judgment, by asking what hurts rather than who is wrong. This direction isn't about fixing everyone overnight. It's about small, consistent acts of reconnection that remind us we are human beings first, capable of bridging the gap when we lower our defenses and reach out with open hands. The path back to each other is paved with patience, shared humanity, and the courage to be soft in a world that rewards hardness. What the data shows, the weight of loneliness. To understand how to heal, we first have to look at the wound without judgment. The numbers don't tell a story of bad character, they reveal a shared ache that crosses every divide. Right now, about 1 in 6 U.S. adults tell us they feel lonely or isolated from those around them all or most of the time. Disconnection is not a personal failing, but a widespread human struggle. When we look closer, the weight shifts depending on where we are in life. Adults under 50 are much more likely than those 50 and older to say they often feel lonely or isolated, with 22% reporting this compared to just 9% in the older group. This isn't about one generation being better at connection. It suggests younger men and women are navigating a landscape that feels particularly isolating right now, grappling with pressures that hinder connection. The data also highlights moments when the strain becomes acute. In fall 2020, 36% of all Americans reported serious loneliness, a figure that surged to 61% among young adults and 51% among mothers with young children. These spikes show us who bears the brunt of isolation during upheaval. Young adults and mothers, often the glue holding families together, are frequently the ones feeling most cut off. This isn't a ledger of blame. It's a map of where the hurt lives. The data describes the wound, loneliness is real, varies by age and role, and touches us all. We don't fix numbers. We recognize that when someone pulls away, they might be carrying this exact weight. Healing starts by naming the shared reality. We are all trying to bridge the same gap, and acknowledging this brings more grace to our approach. What the data shows: the friendship and support gap. When we look at the landscape of our connections, the numbers reveal a shrinking circle that affects us all, though the contours differ by gender and age. A significant portion of us is navigating solitude. 8% of Americans report having no close friends at all, while the majority, 53%, maintain a circle of just 1 to 4 close friends. Only 38% feel they have 5 or more. The shrinking circle reminds us that loneliness is not a solitary struggle, it is a collective drift. When 53% of us are holding on to just 1 to 4 friends, we are all walking a tighter wire, and a stumble can feel much heavier. This contraction paints a picture of isolation that isn't a character flaw, it's a structural shift in how community is woven. The data shows this isn't random, it shifts across generations. Adults under 30 are the least likely to report having 5 or more close friends at 32%, whereas those 65 and older are the most likely at 49%. This suggests that building and sustaining a wide network becomes harder as we enter young adulthood. For the younger generation, the bridge to broad connections seems to have eroded, leaving them to navigate emotional life with fewer anchors. This isn't about personal failure. It reflects a world where the structures that once fostered deep friendship have fragmented, leaving everyone to build connection from scratch. A reality that calls for more grace, not judgment, as they figure out how to belong. Within these networks, how we seek support also diverges, revealing distinct pathways rather than simple deficits. Women are more likely than men to say they'd be extremely or very likely to turn to a friend for emotional support, at 54% compared to 38% for men. Similarly, women are more likely to turn to a mental health professional for emotional support, with 22% doing so versus 16% of men. The gender gap in support seeking isn't a verdict on worth, it's a map of where the infrastructure of care is currently located. Women have built more bridges to friends and professionals, but that reliance can also mean they carry the emotional load of maintaining those ties. Men's lower rates of turning to friends or professionals signal a need for new structures, not a lack of desire for connection. Recognizing these patterns helps us stop accusing either side of being cold or needy. If a man isn't calling a friend, it doesn't mean he lacks care, it may mean the cultural bridge to that support hasn't been built yet, and he needs safe harbors where vulnerability isn't punished. If a woman is leaning heavily on friends, she too needs to check that her circle is reciprocal, ensuring she isn't the only one holding the line. The data describes the wound, our circles are smaller, and our routes to comfort are uneven. The direction is to widen the circle for all, creating space where men can find connection without shame, and women can receive support as freely as they give it. We heal by acknowledging that everyone is fighting the same current, and when we stop blaming the swimmer and start fixing the boat, we all move forward together. What the data shows: the fraying of local and civic ties. The boat we're fixing isn't just about romance, it's about the water we sail in. When the community around us dissolves, the pressure on every relationship spikes. Trust is the first plank to go. Fewer than half of Americans, 44%, now say they can trust all or most of the people in their neighborhood, down from 52% a decade ago. That drop might look small on a chart, but in real life, it means we're walking past faces we don't recognize and keeping our doors locked a little tighter. This isolation has a cost. Just 6% of Americans who know most or all of their neighbors say they feel frequent loneliness or isolation, compared with 20% among those who know none of their neighbors. Knowing the person next door isn't just polite, it's a buffer against the heavy days. When we lose that, we carry more weight alone. We've also lost the shared rhythms that used to gather us. Why? Membership in a church, synagogue, or mosque fell to 47% in 2020, down from 70% in 1999 and 73% when Gallup first measured it in 1937. Attendance follows the same path. 3 in 10 Americans now attend religious services every week, 21%, or almost every week, 9%, down from an average of 42% 2 decades ago. These numbers don't judge faith. They mark the quiet disappearance of third places where strangers became acquaintances and acquaintances became support. Men and women alike are feeling this drift. We aren't just missing rituals, we're missing the practice of showing up for each other outside the home. Rebuilding doesn't demand a return to the past, but it does ask us to create new spaces where we can be seen, trusted, and known again, side by side. What it costs, US. The silence of this drift grows teeth. The cost isn't just fewer dates or quiet streets, it's the erosion of our ability to see each other as humans with shared struggles. Isolation distorts. Retreating into silos, we lose the daily interactions that teach us how the other side thinks, feels, and fears. Without contact, imagination fills the void, rarely kindly. We project insecurities onto the other gender, turning differences into deficits and misunderstandings into moral failures. We begin to view the other gender not as partners in a shared human experience, but as obstacles to our own peace. This mental shift is the true tax we pay. This isn't about fault, it's about what we lose together. For men, the cost is a sense of being judged before speaking, leading to a withdrawal that feels safe but breeds loneliness. For women, the cost is carrying the weight of connection alone, wondering why the bridge feels one way, breeding frustration. The tragedy is that this exhaustion is often misdirected, fueling resentment where there should be recognition of a shared wound. We are fighting ghosts of our own making, not each other. Both sides end up exhausted, not by each other, but by the distance. Empathy requires proximity. You can't empathize with a caricature. When we stop sharing bread, stories, and simple presence, we stop practicing the muscle of compassion. The wound here is mutual. We are starving for connection, yet we've forgotten how to ask for it without fear. Healing starts by recognizing that this isolation hurts us all, and that the person on the other side of the divide is likely feeling the same ache, just wearing a different mask. The path back is paved with small, brave moments of reaching out. We can rebuild that muscle by choosing curiosity over assumption, one conversation at a time. To rebuild, we have to honor the weight each side carries without turning those weights into weapons. Men, you're often told your worth is tied to what you can fix or provide, leaving little room to admit when you're just tired or scared. That silence leaves you lonely. Women, you're frequently expected to hold the emotional temperature of every room, managing relationships and expectations until your own needs get buried under the care of others. That exhaustion leaves you drained. Neither side is the villain. You're both following scripts that deliver distance. The hurt isn't that you don't care, it's that you've forgotten how to ask for what you actually need without fear of judgment. Healing starts when we stop treating these pressures as character flaws and start seeing them as shared wounds. Beneath the friction, the hunger is identical. Both of you crave a safe space to set the burden down and be truly known. When a man withdraws, he might not be checking out, he might be drowning in unspoken pressure. When a woman pushes back, she might not be attacking, she might be begging to be seen. The bridge back isn't built by demanding the other side change overnight. It's built by recognizing that the mask they wear is the same mask you're tempted to put on. We can offer direction by simply asking better questions. Instead of, "Why are you like this?" try, "What's heavy for you right now?" That shift doesn't fix everything, but it opens a door. It says, "I'm here and I'm safe." Real connection returns not when we perform perfection, but when we dare to be imperfect together, trusting that our shared humanity is stronger than our separate struggles. Healing doesn't arrive as a grand gesture. It builds in the quiet moments we often overlook. Rebuilding the bridge between us starts with micro-connections, those small, deliberate acts of noticing that signal we are present. For men and women alike, this means trading the armor of defensiveness for the courage of curiosity. It's asking, "How did that meeting land for you?" instead of waiting to fix it. It's sharing a fear without immediately wrapping it in a joke. These shifts aren't about changing who we are. They're about lowering the volume of our internal noise so we can actually hear the person standing right beside us. Vulnerability here isn't a performance, it's a practice. It looks like admitting when we're overwhelmed, acknowledging when we've missed the mark, and inviting the other person to do the same without judgment. When we drop the script of how we should act, we create space for genuine resonance. You might start by naming your own needs simply. I'm feeling scattered today and could use a few quiet minutes, or I really need to hear you talk about your day. These invitations don't demand perfection, they offer presence. As a hybrid team of humans and AI, we see the patterns clearly. Isolation thrives in silence, while connection grows in the light of shared honesty. Yet we must be clear. This direction is a compass, not a cure. If the weight feels too heavy to carry, or if past wounds keep the door locked, please turn to licensed professionals who can walk that path with you. For the everyday work of reconnecting, however, the power lies in your hands. It lies in the willingness to be seen, to reach out, and to trust the other person is fighting a similar battle, waiting for the same lifeline. So where do we begin? Not with grand gestures or sweeping apologies, but with the quiet, daily choices that weave connection back together. It starts with a pause. When the frustration rises, take a breath and ask yourself, what is the hurt underneath this anger? Often, we are defending wounds we haven't even named yet, mistaking distance for safety when what we really crave is closeness. For men, that might look like admitting vulnerability is in weakness. For women, it might mean releasing the weight of holding everything together. Both of you deserve a space where you can just be human, without the armor and without the scorekeeping. Try one small thing today, right where you are. Send a text that says, "I'm thinking of you," without expecting anything in return. Put down the phone and look someone in the eye until they feel truly heard. Listen to understand, not to win. These aren't fixes, they're bridges. And bridges are built plank by plank, conversation by conversation. We don't need to solve the whole world of loneliness in a single episode. We just need to take the next step together. Here at the Velvet Verdict, we believe in the power of honest social science to guide us, but we also know that data alone can't hold your hand. That's why this show is a collaboration between human hearts and AI tools. We use the best research to map the terrain, but your lived experience provides the compass. We're in this together, navigating the complexities of modern connection with transparency and care. If you found a thread of hope here, share it with someone who needs it. You're not alone in this work. Thank you for listening, and remember, this episode is brought to you by a partnership of human wisdom and artificial intelligence, working side by side to help us heal.